of the finest scarlet red, and gartered tight. Her shoes were soft and new. Bold was her face, handsome, and red in hue. A worthy woman all her life. What's more, she had 5 husbands, all at the church door, apart from other company and youth. No need just now to speak of that, forsooth. And she had thrice been to Jerusalem, seen many strange rivers, and passed over them. She'd been to Rome, and also Prologue, St. James of Compostela, and Cologne. And she was skilled in wandering by the way. She had gap teeth, set widely, truth to say. Easily on an ambling horse she sat, well wimbled up, and on her head a hat, as broad as is a buckler on it or a shield. She had a flowing mantle that concealed large hips. Her heels spurred sharply under that. In company she liked to laugh and chat, and knew the remedies for love's mischances, an art in which she knew the oldest dances.
That's it. Good. So, a lot to be said about her. As I said, I noticed 11 distinct things in there of, 12 of us here, so, or 11 of us here. So, if you'll give me one of those things, we'll start with Neil. Just one thing about it.
Well, she was, she wore like good things, like her clothes were like, her shoes were like soft. And,
Right. She wore the finest red and so forth. So she was well dressed.
Scarlet red.
Okay.
Garter tight.
Yes.
It says in like the second line, she was somewhat deaf.
Yes. We've talked about how all these characters have something kind of negative about them, and that's not her fault. It's not a negative, but it's something made her stand out. Catherine.
She has 5 husbands.
She had been married 5 times. That's kind of interesting. Yes. Celeste.
Me?
Yes, you are Celeste. Tell me another characteristic of her.
I didn't say that.
We'll come back to you if you don't have one. Can you give me one?
She was she's been to Jerusalem.
Oh my God, y'all
She's
keep
well
saying the right thing.
traveled. Lena.
Um,
And I tell you, if you're not making this list, you're wasting this moment, because these are the kinds of things that you're going to be asked to remember.
She could dance? Is that what that was said?
I believe it said that. I'm pretty sure I remember that too somewhere. I don't see it right now, but
An art in which she knew the oldest dances.
Good.
There we go.
yeah. And I think, where is that? Is it halfway down?
It's the
It's
last
all the way,
one.
it's the last line.
I think that word dance there is probably literal, but it also is figurative. In other words, the art of love, romance, she knew the oldest dance. In other words, she knew the tricks of whatever you want to call it, the strategies that women might use to get a man and men might use to get a woman. Yes.
She had like her teeth were gapped.
Yeah.
I made it like alter her appearance like to some.
Yeah. Interesting little detail. Tay,
She made cloth.
she did what?
Made cloth. It says like in the third line in making cloth.
Okay, I could not hear the word cloth. Now I see what you're talking about. She was skilled. She had a skill, making clothes, or in this case, scarves. Yes.
She was fit in a horse.
Yes, she could ride a horse, a Campbell.
She was, where is it? Oh, in company she liked to laugh and chat, so she was very social.
Yes. Good. Jonathan.
She wore a huge hat.
Okay, so she was, again, well dressed. Tim.
I don't know if this has been said yet, but she looked really good apparently. She had like a handsome face.
Okay, I don't remember it saying that,
It
but
did say that.
Yeah, it's in
How do
the-
you
this
describe a
little-
woman as handsome? I thought
It
it was
says
like
bold was her face, handsome and red in hue.
where is that?
Yeah, it's around the middle of.
Oh, I got it. Good. I'm glad she was handsome. She was attractive.
That's what she said?
Yeah.
I would only add to that, it's already been implied, but she's a businesswoman. So the way I like to phrase my question is, what of those characteristics make her we've seen this about the squire, but what is it that makes her a modern woman? I mean, this woman you could transport her into today's society. It'd be a lot of things that are modern.
And she's dead.
Okay, the husband thing, definitely. The travel, definitely. She's a businesswoman. That's not all that,
Independent woman.
not all that common in the Middle Ages, I wouldn't think. Sounds like she doesn't have a husband now.
She don't need one.
She's self-reliant.
Okay.
So in a lot of ways, she's a very modern woman, and I don't remember her story, but I've read it. It's called The Wife of Bath. Good job. So let's move to what may be the most admirable character in the story. And Jonathan, would you like to read about him? This is the parson, and I found 16 or 17 things that you could say about this guy. And they're all positive. So that must be an indication that Chaucer acknowledges this man's character.
Chaucer likes the parson the best of all of them.
I think you will see that he's the most admirable. He says nothing negative about him. So listen to Jonathan, and I'll ask you to share some of those 17 points that he makes.
A holy-minded man of good renown, there was and poor a parson to a town. Yet he was rich and holy in thought and work. He was also a learned man and a clerk, who truly knew Christ the gospel and could preach it, devoutly parishioners and teach it. Benign and wonderfully diligent and patient in adversity was sent. For so he proved in such adversity, he hated cursing to the sort of deed. Nay, rather he preferred beyond a doubt giving before parishioners round about. Both from church offerings and his property, he could in little find sufficiency. Wide was his parish, with houses far asunder, yet he neglected not in rain or in thunder. In sickness or in grief, man call on the remotest, whether great or small. Upon his feet and in his hand a stave, in noble example to his sheep he gave. First he wrought, and afterwards he taught, and it was from the gospel that he taught, that he had caught from his words, and he was as what if gold rust, that if gold rust, then what then will iron do? Or if a priest be foul, then in whom we trust, no matter what a common man should rust. And shame is to see that priest takes back a soothing shepherd and a snowy flock. True example that a priest should give is one of cleanliness, how the sheep should live. He did not set his benefits to hire and leave his sheep uncovered in the mire, or run to London to learn easy bread by singing masses for the wealthy good, or find some brotherhood in get and gold. He stayed at home and watched over his flock, so that no wolf could make the sheep miscarry. He was a shepherd and no mercenary. Holy and virtuous he was, but then never contemptuous of sinful men, never disdainful, never too proud of pride. But was discreet in teaching and benign. His business was to show a fair behavior, and to all men was to heaven and worship, unless indeed a man were obstinate in such, whether of high or low estate, he put too sharp rebuke, to say the least. I think there is never a better priest. He sought no pomp or glory in kingdom, no repulsivity had spliced his feelings. Christ and his 12 apostles and the Lord, whom taught but called it himself.
All right, so this is just a common, ordinary parson. I don't know in the church in the Middle Ages exactly what a parson did. Sounded like he had a congregation, just like your pastor is your shepherd. This parson saw himself as a shepherd to his sheep, which were his parishioners. So let's start on the other side over here and give me one. And please write these things down. You can't study something you don't know. You have to have something to study, and that's where the notes come in. So we're going to start over here. This is the parson.
Parson.
He's very holy and virtuous, and he's very, like, unselfish, like,
All right.
he just does it, like, he preaches and does it for everyone else.
So holy and virtuous and a hard worker. Taylor,
He's a clerk.
where do you see that? I know it's in here,
It
but,
is the fourth line, it says he also was learned man, the clerk.
Okay.
Serving in Christ's
yeah,
gospel.
again, I don't know what the clerk stands for there, but don't think you're talking about somebody who stands behind a counter and sells you things. That's not that kind of clerk. This would be a more really a cleric, you know, someone who studies the word. But that's the important thing. He's well educated. Let's go to Johnson. What else?
He, no matter what the circumstances, he would answer when he's called, like, whether maybe sick or anything else.
Yeah, the weather, the distance is not going to keep him from going to his sheep to minister to them. Tim.
He saw no pomp or glory, his dealings.
All right.
Very humble.
Very good. Tate.
He was giving, like to poor people.
He would give out of his poverty to other poor people, or I should say poorer people. Yes.
He, so I think he was like a Christian, because it said like, he said, his business was to show favor and to draw men thus to heaven and their sins.
So what did you say before
Like
that?
he's a Christian, like
Yeah, he cares about where people are going, you know, after they die. He cares about that. Yeah, Lena.
He doesn't seek after like earthly glory. It says he sought no pomp or glory in his dealings.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned that, but also he doesn't go just to rich people. Remember, who was it, the friar that only went to rich people? He would go to the bars, but not to minister to them. He would go to the bars to drink with them, but then he'd go to the rich people to get money from them. Celeste.
I just like thought that he was a devout Christian.
And don't settle for one or two things. You've heard so far. You've heard about 7 or 8 things, and I think there are a number more. Catherine.
What?
Anything else? You've already given us one, right? All right, we'll go to Neil.
He was.
Well, you're looking. Owen, what do you got?
I just said that he was poor, like as a person, but he was rich in like the Holy Spirit.
All right, and what do you got, Neil? Celeste has something.
Here where it says he stayed at home and watched over his fold so that no wolf should make the sheep miscarry. It kind of like shows how like he was like faithful to like the people that he was
Yeah.
ministering to. Like he didn't just like stay with them for a little and then leave them.
Good. Good point. Yeah, Jack.
He was a shepherd, not a fighter. What is it?
Yeah, a shepherd like, you know, Christ sees himself as a shepherd. Neil, anything?
I'll probably do something.
All right, we'll keep looking. Can I point out a couple of things? Since you can't write in the book, I'm going to ask you to write these down. All right, so would you do that?
I probably could, but he was never like too proud.
All right, he was a humble man. So all the things that you've mentioned are very good, but I want to add 2 things to it. About halfway down it said, find it, okay? I don't have line numbers. This noble example to his sheep he gave, that first he wrought and afterward he taught. What does he mean by that? I want you to remember that. Include it in your notes. Catherine, I don't want you to miss this. Include it in your notes. The noble example to his sheep he gave, that first he wrought, afterward he taught. What does that mean? What do you mean when you wrought? When something's wrought?
What line was that?
I don't have, it's halfway down. I don't have line numbers in mine. I don't think you do either. First he wrought, and afterwards he taught.
So what, did he just, was it like, did he share his personal experiences with them? Like, he first experienced the lesson for himself and then shared it.
Right. He wasn't just a speaker instead of a doer. You know, so James talks about don't be what does it say? I'm sorry, I can't remember what James says, but you have to obey as well as to believe. And so he did before he told you to do. So if he says give 10%, he practiced what he preached. He practiced first and then he preached, because he didn't want to be guilty of preaching something he was not willing to do himself. Okay. The other thing I want you to look at, I want you to note that somehow, write it, copy it, whatever. And the other thing it says a little bit down, he said, that if gold rust, then what will iron do? For if a priest be foul in whom we trust, no wonder that a common man should rust. The key words there, if gold rust, what then will iron do? So what is he talking about? Going back to that idea that first he did it, and then he preached it. He didn't preach something he wasn't willing to do himself.
Oh, it's saying that if people who don't, not experiment, but if people who don't practice before they preach, who just preach, they don't live by anything that they're saying.
And so what's going to be the result of that?
People doing the same thing as that person.
If people are to imitate their leaders, if their leaders can't reach that standard, how in the world could the followers reach it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Hang on.
If the leaders can't reach it, coach.
Yeah, let me see.
And it's like when now, like when you find out about like pastors that have done like a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
It's like some people are like, oh my gosh, this person was so godly, and like we thought this person was
Yeah.
so godly, and we thought they would never do something like this, and they like I've seen some people like literally like doubt their faith because
Yeah.
of the person they thought was so
Yeah.
godly that did something wrong.
Yes, that's very convicting to all of us, is we must be, you shouldn't shy away from telling people about the gospel. We can't be perfect in it. But again, the idea is if the leadership is unsound, then what do you expect from the followers? The followers are only as good as their leaders. And that's what he meant. If gold rust, then what will iron do? In other words, can gold rust? No. But if it could, what would you expect of iron, whether it does or not? What would iron do? Of course it rusts. And so if the gold rusts, then you can't expect anything more from the iron. To me, that's a very important principle. If you're going to be a leader of any kind, you need to be the real deal.
That's good.
You need to be what you claim to be and what you preach. So we are through the parson, and we are getting close to the end of this. You guys are ahead of everybody.
I remember that. We used to be in big, like we were halfway done before everybody else.
What's that say about you guys?
We're the best.
We don't talk.
I'm not supposed to take sides, so I can't comment.
I talk. No,
I can't comment, but let your work speak for themselves.